Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here today with Jacqueline Leibel-Cote, who's the president of Collette. And I'm sure most of you know Collette. It's a wonderful tour operator, family-owned business for many years. And we wanted to take this time. There's been a lot going on with Collette in recent times, in the last year, certainly during the pandemic. And now, as we emerge, there's even more. So we wanted to talk to Jacqueline about what all that is going on, and you'll find out about that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, Jacqueline, how are you and where are you?
I am doing great. James, thank you so much for having me. And I'm home today in Rhode Island, where our headquarters is based.
Now, Jacqueline, here's a question I didn't have on the list for you, but let's talk a little bit about the history of Collette as a family-run business, how long it has been in business, and how long, particularly the Sullivan family has been operating it.
Yeah, so we've been in business for 104 years.
Just 104, huh?
Just 104. I mean,
Okay.
I look really good for 104. No, but my grandfather purchased it from Jack Collette, which is where the name Collette comes from, in 1962, and it's family owned by the Sullivan family, and I am the third generation.
That's great, and that you've been able to carry that through all these years and still have a wonderful company and highly respected one with such great products. Now, let's talk. Obviously, the last 2 years have been, let's say, interesting, very tough. How did Collette get through the pandemic, and how did you survive this period? What did you have to do?
I mean, look, for anyone in travel, but so many industries were just hit so hard, obviously, through the pandemic. And when borders close, I mean, this is, as we all know, unprecedented, right? Because we've had many crises throughout the years that happen, or geopolitical events that take place, but nothing quite as severe, if you will, as closing borders, where planes aren't flying as often or at all. And but we really just had to take action, and thankfully we've managed our finances really well over the last many years and decades, which allowed us, we had to make some extremely difficult decisions, but in doing that, it's allowed us to stand strong as we come out of this today.
No, that's great, and I know you guys did it by yourselves pretty much and got it through this. Now, when did you actually start your first tours? I think you started them pretty early in the process, right?
We did. We had a philosophy in that, we, as March of 2020 started, a lot of us, we left the office thinking, oh, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I think you talk to a lot of people and they sort of had that same sentiment, that they left thinking, oh, we'll see you in 3 weeks, we'll be back and this will be over. Well, as the months continued to go on, as an executive leadership team, we sort of just said, we have to get comfortable operating travel in a world where COVID exists.
Mm-hmm.
And 2020 to 2021, very different because vaccinations came out, but we did start operating in July of 20, and
Which
we
is pretty early, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
We were just only a few months into the pandemic, but I assume most of that was probably domestic, right?
It was domestic. Oh, for sure. This was your national parks, places where you could get outside, but those people who wanted to travel, I'm going to call these your travelers that were like, okay, I'm done being at home. Life is short. Let me get out there. So we operated probably about 45 tours between July of 20 through October of 20.
No, that's amazing, and then of course you added on. And how did you sort of roll out the expansion of your other destination offerings as things opened up?
So as things opened up, I mean, we have a whole team of people that manage and watch, the operations. When borders lifted, what were the restrictions? What were the COVID levels? I mean, just because something opened didn't mean we were going to take passengers and employees back there, right? So we had to make sure that we could do it safely and comfortably, and so that those that purchased their travel with Collette could actually experience the tour in which they paid for. So yeah, it's and still continues today. I mean, we still have to manage and watch, and things are ever changing with what do you need COVID test to get in? Do you not need COVID test to get in? So there's a lot of that still continues to take place, but definitely in a much different place than in 2020. People are excited to be back out traveling. We hear it from our tour managers. We see it in the surveys that people are writing back. And we just see it in the numbers and the demand of the call volume and people getting back on the road, which is great.
No, that's great. Now, I assume you started with domestic, and then obviously in the last year, we've seen Europe gradually open up, and now it's pretty much open now. So have you seen a surge in business there?
Yes. I mean, so last year in 20, what year are we now? We're in 22. So last year in 2021, a lot of what you saw, we saw Europe, definitely people traveling to Europe and feeling comfortable. The first tour we actually operated last March was actually to Costa Rica. That was our
Oh, wow.
first tour after pretty much being shut down. I mean, 45 departures in 20. It's not typical. It's very little, but it got us back out there. It got us to test and learn so that when operations opened up in 21, we had a good grasp and a good handle on process and procedures. But so Costa Rica was actually our first one. Last year, you saw a lot of people traveling domestically, and also in Europe, it's really flipped this year, where you still have people traveling domestically, but Europe is a much larger piece of the pie of where people are looking to travel.
Yeah, and so so far you haven't seen any blip because of the war in Ukraine, have you?
No, I mean, look, everything that's happening there is just devastating. But we took some product off and tours offline. We did have to temporarily cancel our Poland tour, and some in the surrounding areas. But no, the overall to your UK, Ireland, your Iceland, your Italy's, those destinations are still people are traveling to. We have people in destinations all over Europe right now and enjoying the travel experience again and getting back out there
Yeah, and
despite
as I told you before we started the call, I just got back from Europe, and even though I was
yeah,
only about 700 miles from the war zone when I was in Hungary, I felt perfectly safe. And of course, there's a lot of river cruise action going on there, so that was fine. And then I moved to Lisbon, and it was obviously even better there. What about other places like down in Australia, New Zealand, things like that, and because they had just came back online.
they did just come back online, which is great. I mean, Australia it holds a very close place to my heart because back in the day, I used to do a lot of the product development to the South Pacific. It's a great place to travel to. And they were in lockdown for just such a long time. So it has been great to see the borders lift there. And so we are starting to reopen that, and we're going to resume operations in the fall of 2022.
Okay, that's great because it's
Yes.
not too far away, and then obviously I don't know how much you do out and way out into Southeast Asia. They seem to be opening up as well. So
Yeah, no, I mean that I think it's going to take a little bit more time to come back, but I think that in due time it will come back. We actually just had a tour that also just went to India. We had 9 people who went to
oh,
India,
wow.
and one of the local news stations saw an American group, which was ours, Colette, out in India, and we're interviewing them because it was it was the first American group they had seen come back to visit India, and so it was it was great for them that they were excited to see travelers coming back, and it was great for us to be able to be there to be a part of that with those folks that wanted to travel. I mean, when you have a bucket list destination, you want to see the Taj Mahal. There's only so much time
I
you
know.
can wait.
Absolutely. And India is one of those cases where we saw a lot of bad news in the middle of COVID, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And
Yes,
suddenly they're saying, hey, they all are vaccinated and you can go. And people didn't quite believe it. Yet
exactly.
it's happening. And India is now a great destination to get back to. Now, in terms of all your scheduled departures, I understand a lot of them, most of them really have gone out on time, and you haven't really you canceled some, like you said, Poland, but most of the stuff has really been on time and on schedule.
Yeah, I mean, look, throughout all of this, there's been little blips, if you will, right around November, December, when Omicron was coming, some of the Christmas markets were canceled temporarily. So that impacted us. Morocco closed down probably for about a 6 week span, somewhere around the December timeframe. But for the most part, operations have been, once they started, really were not impacted. So it's been great. We've had over 1,100 departures go out. We've been operating for over 12 months, in full operation. So it's been great.
No, that's fantastic. It's great news for the industry and for your company, obviously. Now, let's talk a little bit about. We talked a little bit about some of your popular destinations, but what has been the most popular domestic tour and also the most popular international tour?
Oh, and the most popular domestic tour, even pre-COVID times, and it has not changed, is the national parks.
Right.
It does well. And people want to see it's sort of the domestic check, but bucket list. Got to check it off. You're going to see 5 or more of the national parks, and it's a great. You're outside. You're being able to experience nature in a different way. But national parks, hands down, is the number one. And then some of the other tours that feature national parks are doing really well. Internationally, Ireland is remains to be number one, but it's really, you got the three eyes that continue to always be in the top, which is your Italy, it's your Ireland, and it's Iceland. Iceland's come back in a big way, and it was one of the first destinations to open up and allow travelers in. So we're continuing to see that, just as we did pre-COVID. So I will say we haven't seen a massive shift where people want to travel pre-COVID to actually traveling now.
No, it is great. I know you talk about the three eyes. I know I got to believe Italy remains always popular, and Ireland is really booming. I'm actually supposed to go to an Irish tourism event later this week or something. So they are very happy down there, and we did some work with Italy, and they are booming as well. I have to get back there myself. Let's talk a little bit about the new tours you introduced for 22 and also stuff for 23.
Yeah, so we're in the process of designing and developing a lot of, the 2023 product, and we're getting ready to actually talk about 2024. That's how far out we actually work. But throughout the pandemic, so one of the things that we had as an initiative was to continue to expand on our explorations product line. So there's been a lot of development, and we continued, thankfully, through COVID to continue to develop and design tour products and programs for the exploration small group line. So we've expanded tremendously throughout Europe, as well as Thailand and some of those great destinations. But it through that slower period, it allowed us to really double down in some of the product offerings that we could offer as we came out of COVID, and definitely in the exploration small group line is where you're going to see some of that.
Actually, let's stick with that topic, because I talk about the different tour lines you do have. You have your explorations. What are some of the other areas? Obviously, you have sort of more traditional motor coach tours for groups, but then, as you said, smaller groups. So what else do you offer?
Yeah, so there's the classic style, of course, which we're talking about. There's the explorations, which is small groups. So it's going to range anywhere. It's a max of 24 passengers or guests, in destination, and that's in your Europe. Sometimes the max might only be 19 in certain destinations as well. We have some river cruise product that we have out there. We have our spotlight tour offerings, which is one hotel, hub and spoke, not having that sense of having to pack and unpack and moving multiple times throughout a destination. So you have our spotlight on London, you have our spotlight on New York. So it's great destinations to kind of go to, park yourself, and really dive deep into a city or an area. So that's really, those are the main tour offerings that we have.
No, that's great. Now, we talked about this a little earlier, but pretty much by the end of this year, do you expect to be completely up and running, barring any unforeseen issues with, additional COVID issues or obviously other world events?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've learned a lot through COVID. So we have multiple scenarios. Should X happen, we can do Y. So, you kind of learned that through COVID. But yes, I mean, we're just watching each day, each week. People are still, they're amped up to travel. People are booking, and it's definitely much different than obviously what we experienced in 2020. So yeah, I mean, we're 95% operational right now with all tour destinations, a few to still open, but we're operating, and we're ready to go. I mean, our summer months alone are actually bigger in passengers and revenue than they were in 2000 and what they were in 2019,
Right.
when we did fully operate. So I mean, the demand is there. I mean, we're seeing it. We're definitely seeing it.
No, that's great news, and I know I'm hearing that from a lot of people, despite Omicron, and we're hoping, I think later this month even, that they're finally going to lift this testing requirement on return to US, which is everybody's hoping that's going to happen, because that's been the rub, is that, if you end up testing positive for COVID, and usually it's the Omicron variant, you have to quarantine. And
Yes.
but I was just with several people and who had it, and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get it? I didn't. But they had to stay in place in Lisbon. Yeah, they're in a 5-star hotel in Lisbon. I mean, I'm not going to cry for them, but it's like, it did disrupt their other plans, and I had other travel plans as too, but luckily I got through. But that's been the rub right now, is I don't think people are as concerned, especially if you've been vaccinated and have done all the things you need to do with COVID, as the fact that you do get quarantined for it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. We're hoping to see that lift. I think that will look, there's lots of people that are traveling right now. That definitely looms over their head their entire tour, that they have to test at the end to be able to get back in. I think once that lifts, I think you'll see a lot more travelers come into the market as well, which will be great. Because it is daunting to think, to your point, you have friends that had that happen, and it is a fear and something that people really question what would happen. Thankfully, though, the quarantines aren't as strict as they were
Yeah.
even a year ago. Everything's loosened up slightly, but even the fact that you have to adjust your travel, get home a couple days later until you can test negative, people don't want to have to deal with that. So yeah, we're hoping, fingers crossed that
Yeah,
lifts.
I hear a rumor it's April 18th. I'm probably totally wrong, but
No, 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 you're right on that. You're right. We're waiting for that.
that's when the airlines have sort of said, we'd like to get rid of this, because it really is they're responsible for checking all this stuff, and I think they're kind
Yeah.
of tired of that. As for me, I'm just tired of filling out those horrible health certification forms in all the different countries, which I don't know. I guess I'm just totally electronically challenged, because I can't seem to do them online. I do it, but the other day I was coming back and through Spain, and I had to do the Spanish one, and oh my God, it just didn't work. And finally, you know what? They do have a paper one. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I was like, great. Okay, I'll take that and I'll just do it. And then you know what? I did it. I filled it out and nobody checked it. But that's another story. As the craziness of COVID in 2022. Now, let's talk about something that's pretty crucial to our audience. We go out to 100,000 travel advisors, and we're back up above 100,000 again as people re-engage. We were down as low as 75 as sort of people hibernated, and now we're back up there. They're all verified. How have you helped travel advisors get through this pandemic effort? What policies have you implemented to help them? I know there are some really innovative things you've done that I know a lot of travel advisors appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, look, as difficult as a time as this was, there were policies we actually didn't have to change, that they just already existed for Colette. That's our refund policy. So we refunded over $170 million,
Mm.
during the pandemic. It's hard to say, it's hard to, but that was the right thing to do. And for us, it was, we didn't want the agent to be stuck between a tour company, to be stuck between Collette and their customer.
Right.
And it was really important to us. And we didn't just do the refund for the land package. We refunded the air. We also refunded the waiver that they had purchased. And it's just part of our DNA, to be quite honest
Right.
with
Right.
you. And that was nothing that had changed. It was just what we had always done. It just was obviously a much accelerated, if you will, or a lot more than would typically happen. And people did also move, but and then I think with COVID, what happened was it went longer. Like I said earlier, went longer than we all anticipated, right?
Right.
And that was impacted and felt by all, as us at Collette. But then that continuation really had us thinking about, okay, this is really impacting the agents and their wallets, right? And so what we ended up doing is we came out in the fall of 2020 with an advanced commission program, and
Which is something that a lot of travel advisors had been asking for, and they hadn't been getting from cruise lines and tour operators. And you guys answered the call.
Yeah, I mean, we had to, because there's so much work that we recognize that agents do before their guest travels, right? And they don't typically get paid, as you know, until after the travel happens. Well, when things are pretty much in lockdown and things are still a bit uncertain, you knew it was going to open up again and people were booking travel, but it was still sort of in that gray area. It was really important for us to be able to offer agents commission upon booking and putting a deposit down, so they can get up to $200 when they book that, those travelers, as an advanced commission, and then the rest would be paid once the guests actually travel. So it was a way for us to sort of get ahead of it and be able to partner with the agent community to say, we've got your back and we support you, and those that travel. And the thing is if those customers cancel, we don't ask for that commission back. So I think that's also really important. There's a trust that goes along with the partnership that we have with the agent community. And it's, we're in this together to bring
Right.
this travel industry back, and we've got to partner together. And it was just the right thing to do.
Now that you implemented this policy during COVID, will this remain your policy going forward?
Yes. Oh yeah. There's no discussions of taking this away or removing it in any way, shape, or form. No, this is the right thing to do. This is, there's so, like I said, there's so much that the agents do, to sit and make sure that they choose the right tour product for the traveler, right? And when they choose Collette and they're putting their trust in our tour product, we put our trust in that agent, and we want to thank them for that partnership. And so, yeah, there's no talk of this going away at all.
That's great. Well, you did all the right things with the refund policy, with the early commission payments, with flexible bookings. It sounded like you did everything, hit all the notes there to make it a lot easier for travel advisors to book their clients and also get a little money as we try to get through that. We all say, we're all waiting for this season in 23. Everybody's hoping it's be gangbusters. So we'll see what happens. But it sounds like you positioned yourself well with your travel advisors, the ones that book you a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's we're excited. Travel's coming back. It's definitely, we're sitting in a much different place than we were 2 years ago, and we're sitting in a much different place than we were even 12 months ago. So it's really great to see travelers getting back out there, to hear the quotes that come through on the surveys, and talking to our tour managers. People are excited, and I'm just happy that we're able to share the world with them.
Now, is there anything else you want to tell our viewers, our travel advisors, about Collette, about your destinations, your new destinations, obviously about your travel advisor programs and policies?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you book Collette, there's a level of confidence and a level of trust. And we come from integrity always. And I would just say, if you haven't ever, chosen Collette, I would say give us that chance, because we're definitely going to put our partnership with you first, and that peace of mind with our cancellation policy, as well as the advanced commission. And we design incredible tour products. We are leaders in land travel, so in the guided travel space. We're leaders, we're innovators, and it's not the typical guided travel experience that you would think of. We've really disrupted that over the years, and there's a lot of flexibility built in, and our pacing is bar none to any out there in the industry. And yeah, I would just say, as we come out of this together, let's partner stronger together and bring travel back.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Where can travel advisors go to get more information about Collette?
Yeah, so they can go to gocollette.com, and they can just talk their BDMs as well, and also just calling right into the customer care center, and they're happy to help in any way. Our call volume, I will say this too, our call volume is high, but our wait times, I know this is a struggle out there with the agent community, so an important thing to know, our wait time is anywhere from 30 seconds to no more than 2 minutes.
That's
So
amazing.
we've invested in our customer care center. That doesn't mean we have low call volume. We have high call volume. We've invested in hiring and training, for customer care, so that agents do not have to wait for long hold times, because that's not helping them in any way, shape, or form.
Well, Jacqueline, I want to thank you for spending a little time with us today. It's great to hear all this good news about Collette and all the things that you've done for travel advisors, as well as all your new destinations. And as I think you're right, as we emerge from this, this is going to be a decent year. And then hopefully next year it'll be even better. And we're looking for more and more stuff from, you're only over 100 years old. I mean, you should be able to do this by now, right?
We think so. I don't know.
Anyway, great to see you. And thanks again for spending some time with us.
Thanks so much.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.